The movie begins in a medical school where some students are receiving a lecture on the importance of the brain in the human body. Later on, one of the students, Sunita, goes through some medical files and discovers a case about a patient with short-term amnesia. The patient is a bald-looking man whose condition occurred when he took a blow to his head by an attacker in a tragic encounter years ago. She meets with her professor and asks to undertake this mystery patient's case for her school project. However, he refuses because of the involvement of the police in the case and proceeds to tell her about the unfortunate state of the man, whose name is Sanjay. Sunita feels sad for him and wonders how a person like him even survives life with such a short-term memory. In the scene that follows, Sanjay is seen fighting off a man. After eliminating his enemy, he takes a picture of him and starts writing some notes on the picture. Sanjay then starts searching the unconscious man and finds a phone and quickly finds the name Ghajini on it, and the name triggers some past memories of his. However, it later ends abruptly with a woman whispering in his ear. Wasting no time, he writes down Ghajini's phone number and leaves the scene. Soon, the police arrive at the crime scene. Also, some not-so-innocent-looking men arrive too, and it is obvious that the man, who just lost his life to Sanjay, used to be one of them. The next day, Sanjay wakes up from sleep, oblivious to what he did the previous day. As he gets set to take a bath, he finds some writings and instructions for his next course of action on his body. The writings jolt his memory, and he quickly becomes angry as he soon remembers the terrible things he suffered in his past. Meanwhile, one of the detectives, Arjun, who had visited the crime scene before, is hot on Sanjay's trail. Arjun had found a bus ticket from the scene and decided to follow up with this evidence. He goes to the bus station where the ticket was purchased, and it is not long before he finds the information he seeks. The ticket seller tells him about a forgetful passenger who purchased the ticket, and Arjun hurriedly leaves with the ticket seller to find Sanjay. They soon find him already on a bus leaving the bus station, and Arjun immediately chases after the bus and soon catches up with it. Damn, he runs fastest than the Flash. However, when he enters the bus, Sanjay is nowhere to be seen. In the next scene, Sunita accidentally runs into Sanjay, and she stops him for a brief chat. After asking a bunch of questions about how he got his head injury, Sanjay gets annoyed and stands up to leave. However, Sunita begs him for a final request and asks him to take a picture of her so that he will remember her the next time she approaches him. Meanwhile, Arjun continues his search for Sanjay and soon tracks him down at his house, where he attacks and knocks him out before tying him up. He then proceeds to search his house and soon finds his diary and begins to unravel the mysterious past of Sanjay. Turns out, Sanjay used to be a very successful and famous young businessman in the telecommunications industry and can be seen giving speeches with everyone applauding. In the next scene, the movie reveals a young lady called Kalpana, who is a struggling actress with her eyes set on big things. One day during a commercial shooting, Kalpana is visited by men from Sanjay's company. Because of the fame Sanjay has, her studio executives all get excited and quickly assume that Kalpana is Sanjay's girlfriend. However, Kalpana soon realizes that the men are only here because they want to place a billboard somewhere close to her home, so they require her consent. But instead of telling the truth to her co-workers, Kalpana decides to run with the crazy idea, and soon she becomes a local sensation and becomes famous for the fake news she told. But soon, Sanjay finds out about her lies and decides to visit the little lying actress. Not long, he tracks her down to a school, where he finds her helping disabled children. His heart softens as he watches her attend to the kids, and he decides not to confront her. Soon he meets her on one of her production sets, and because Kalpana has never seen Sanjay before, she thinks he's an inspiring actor who's trying to find out how she met the famous businessman and foolishly tells him a made-up love story. But instead of exposing her, Sanjay decides to play along and pretends to ask her for acting opportunities, since she is now a superstar. The ignorant Kalpana decides to help him out by telling him that she will give him a call if she comes across any audition opportunities. Later on, she calls him and announces an audition for an underwear commercial, and Sanjay decides to show up for this audition. In the days that follow, Sanjay spends more time with Kalpana and sees how kind-hearted she is, helping out people as much as she can. Soon, Sanjay begins falling in love with her. One day, Kalpana's director informs her of a party that they plan to have, and he asks her to invite Sanjay, who they all assume is her boyfriend. Out of desperation to hide her lies, she reaches out to a friend and asks him to pretend to be Sanjay. However, during their practice, the real Sanjay walks in and watches the terrible performance of the person trying to be him. Kalpana then reveals all the lies she told to Sanjay. So in order to help her, Sanjay decides to pretend to be himself at the party. During the party, he walks in with quite an entrance, and not long he is socializing and giving huge sums of money to charities. Of course, Kalpana is shocked by all this and thinks all the money spent is coming out of her pocket. However, they manage to make it through the night, and on their way home, Kalpana can't stop laughing. However, all of a sudden Sanjay tells her how much he loves her. Kalpana is taken aback, and she tells him she needs to think about it and drops off the bus. Back to the present, Arjun comes to the end of the diary and soon finds another one to continue the story. However, Sanjay becomes conscious and angrily attacks the detective after breaking free from his ropes. He takes out a fire extinguisher to finish off the intruding policeman, but is fortunately stopped by someone at his door. He quickly binds up Arjun and hides him away. He then goes to see who is at the door and finds his doctor and his staff there. After examining him, they leave. But an alarm beeps to remind him of his mission for the day, and he discovers that it is the day to finish off Ghajini. It turns out that this person will be attending a school festival later that evening. Sanjay prepares and heads off to the school. Here, Sunita meets him again, as it happens to be the school where Ghajini will be present. She tries to reintroduce herself to Sanjay, but her colleagues hurry her off as she has to perform later that evening. During the ceremony, Sunita's professor introduces the school's guest of honor, and it's none other than Ghajini. Sanjay watches with rage as the man is led to his seat. He takes out his camera and takes some snapshots of him. After this, he calls Ghajini's phone to confirm if it is the right number and quickly hangs up after the confirmation. Sanjay goes to the parking lot and calls again. However, Ghajini gives the phone to one of his men to answer. Sanjay invites, who he thinks is Ghajini, to the parking lot, and soon attacks him as soon as he arrives. He finishes him off, but quickly discovers that he just took out the wrong person. Soon, Ghajini and his men enter the parking lot and see their fatally injured member. They also see Sanjay, so they quickly open fire at him, but he manages to escape without Ghajini knowing his identity. After watching his henchmen pass, Ghajini then orders his men to investigate who might be after them. The next day, Sunita decides to visit Sanjay, and after getting into his unlocked residence, she finds it empty and begins to snoop around. She comes across maps and various plans to attack some people and Ghajini. Shortly after, she comes across the bound Arjun and unties him. At this time, Sanjay returns and demands to know what they are both doing in his apartment, as he doesn't remember any one of them. Arjun flees and Sanjay pursues after him. Unfortunately, he runs into an oncoming vehicle and his life comes to an end. Sunita, who sees all of this, is shocked and tries to get away, but Sanjay sees her and begins to pursue her. She runs into a mall and pretends to have been shopping, hoping Sanjay will not remember who she is. He then asks if he has been pursuing her, but she denies, stating that they are friends and that he had no reason to chase after her. Sanjay doesn't believe this, but Sunita manages to wiggle her way out when she asks him to fight off some smokers for smoking in a public area. Meanwhile, Ghajini goes on a murder spree, taking out all of his perceived enemies one after the other until no one remains. However, he still doesn't chill out as he still believes someone is after him. Later that day, Sunita starts feeling afraid that Sanjay might harm her and use her photo for no good, so she decides to call Ghajini to help her out. However, Sanjay, who happens to be sneaking around Ghajini's home at that time, picks up the call and pretends to be Ghajini. Sunita tells him about how dangerous Sanjay is and asks for a favor to retrieve the photo from him. This infuriates Sanjay, so he goes after her at her hostel. Fortunately, she manages to escape, and after having no luck in finding Sunita, he leaves using the elevator. Sunita quickly switches off the power and traps him inside. She then calls the police, and they arrest him. At the police station, the police find all of the tattoos as well as phone numbers on Sanjay's body. The police start dialing all the numbers, and eventually, they reach Ghajini's number, and he comes to the police station. He finds Sanjay sedated and recognizes him from the picture Sunita gave him. Later on, Sanjay's staff and doctor show up at the police station. They demand that the police release Sanjay and present legal documents to do so, and soon, the police release him as they are unable to press any charges. After leaving, Ghajini follows them behind. They get into the house and find Sanjay still sedated. Instead of finishing him off, Ghajini decides not to, as he feels the police will most likely suspect him after what happened at the station. Instead, they decide to wipe off any last strand of memory that Sanjay has. They take away his evidence and maps, burn all the pictures he has, and spray over all the tattoos on his body before leaving. Meanwhile, Sunita, who had taken Sanjay's diaries, begins to read them and soon finds out about Kalpana and Sanjay. Following Sanjay's declaration of his love, Kalpana expressed her interest in him too. However, she decides that she was only going to have a serious relationship as soon as her finances were better. As a result, Sanjay continued to pretend to be an average person. The love between the two continued to blossom, with Sanjay throwing in whatever favors he could and even rigging a contest in her favor so she could get a new house. One day, he tells her about his desire to travel out of town for a while and eventually does, and the diary entry again ends. At this point, Sunita and her friends become curious and decide to do some digging about Kalpana and Sanjay. They soon come across a young lady who relates a story of being saved from human traffickers by Kalpana on a train. With her rescue came a huge crackdown on traffickers in the city, and this greatly affected Ghajini, who was involved in these ignoble acts. Ghajini soon finds Kalpana and threatens her. One day he makes good on his threats and visits her with his henchmen. At this time, Sanjay is back from his trip and visits Kalpana with a bouquet of flowers. He knocks at her door, but Kalpana doesn't dare respond as she is hiding from Ghajini's men. After he leaves, Ghajini's men find her and fatally injure her. Sanjay returns but finds his girlfriend barely alive. She whispers the name of Ghajini into his ears before the evil mobster and his men appear again. They finish her off and deal deadly blows to Sanjay's head. Sunita now realizes the truth and quickly takes the diary to Sanjay, where she tells him everything he needs to know about his past. Filled with rage, he calls up Ghajini and threatens to put an end to his evil life. With this, the stage is set for the final showdown. Sanjay tracks down his enemy, and they battle each other amidst his many henchmen. In the course of the fight, Sanjay's medical condition kicks in and he forgets why he is there. Ghajini uses this opportunity to deceive him before badly injuring him. With the upper hand now, he attempts to reenact the evil manner in which he ended Kalpana's life with Sunita, but Sanjay manages to stop him and eventually finishes him off, thus earning the vengeance he had always sought. In the next scene, an orphanage is built in honor of Kalpana, and Sanjay is seen playing with the kids, and the movie ends with him reminiscing about his lost lover. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this recap, be sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss our next video.